What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me on another great, or at least I think great, repair tutorial. Today we're going to work with the Xbox 360. This is kind of part 2, or what I'm kind of calling part 2 for the disk read error on the Xbox 360. If you didn't see the first part, I would suggest trying that first, unless of course you've already bought a laser and everything and you're ready to install it. But today we'll just be working with replacing the laser for your Xbox 360 console. If you haven't gotten to this point or not sure how to get to this point, and what I mean by that is just have the drive by itself. As you can see, a link has popped up for another tutorial, and that's going to be how to open your Xbox 360. And again, that is also for the FAT version. So I would check that tutorial out first, and then come back to this tutorial once you've got it opened up. Another quick note: today I'm going to be working with the Samsung, which is the first drive, DVD drive in the Xbox 360 FAT consoles. There's 4 different versions, and I'm going to try my best to coincide everything and reference to the other versions, especially with things that I know and differences that I know. But I can tell you that everything is a similar concept. Everything works generally the same. It just kind of looks different. Maybe a few things are positioned in a little different places, so it should be somewhat manageable to just use this tutorial for whatever version you have. Only tools we're going to need for this, some people call these jewelry screwdrivers, some people call them electronic screwdrivers. They're just really small so that they can handle all the little itty-bitty screws that are inside of here. And that's really all you're going to need for this. But then again, we're only going to be replacing the laser. Some of the other little parts, you may need a few little extra tools just to kind of get in there and finick around with everything. But for this, that's all we'll need. Okay. So today, we're going to actually physically take it apart and we're going to replace the laser. Now, I will tell you first that I don't actually have a replacement laser that I'm going to put in here. So I'm actually just going to take the laser out and then take that same laser and put it back in. So just kind of bear with me and just remember that don't put your old laser back in, put your new laser in. Alright, let's get started. First, pretty much all the drives are going to work the same. They're all going to have the 4 screws located somewhere that you need to unscrew to get this top casing off. So that's what we'll do now real quick. And then after you get the screws out, all you're going to have to do is just pop the 2 shell pieces off, the 2 metal shell casing, however you want to call it. Always try to put your screws in something that, some sort of little tray, something with 4 sides. That way they won't roll away and get lost. Believe me, it is very easy to lose the screws, and you'll be very pissed later if you do. Just taking that off. I'll set this shell aside. Okay. Now what we're going to do is, to really get in there and do like you want to do, you have to actually get this tray to eject. And how to do that is you're going to flip it over. Now on the Samsung, again, this is going to work differently. I know on the BenQ and the light-on, it's going to be different, and I'll explain that a little bit as I'm going here. On the Samsung, and I think on even the Hitachi, it's a little different than this, but it's still generally the same. As you can see, there's kind of this little white piece of plastic here, and that is actually what you're going to pop. As you slide that white piece out, as you see, the tray slides out. The difference on the BenQ and the Hitachi is in the same general area where this is, that over here to the far side, kind of where I'm pointing the screwdriver, there's going to be a little black piece of plastic protruding out. And what you'll do with that, is take it and kind of pry the screwdriver in like that. And then what that's going to do is push that black piece of plastic in, and at the same time it's going to start to eject this tray. So if there's any problems with that, make sure to leave me a comment as far as the differences. Okay, now that we got this out, we're going to flip it back over. There's a couple different ways you can do this. I don't ever do this, but I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. Sometimes this whole thing right here is actually called the laser assembly. Some people will actually want to physically take this whole assembly out because it's less to have to work with than the entire drive. But for the sake, for the purpose of time and to do it the most efficient way, I'm not going to do that. But if you did want to do that, here you would unscrew this screw and this screw, and then these are kind of rubber pieces that kind of hold it in and allow it to have some give as you see it kind of moving around here. And those will kind of just pop out. Now, of course, you'll want to disconnect everything first, but that's how you would do that if that's what you would prefer doing. Okay. Ooh, almost dropped it there. Nice one. What we're going to do first is we're going to take out the PCB board. Now, with the Hitachi and the Samsung, they're everything, all the motors, all the laser, everything is connected with an actual ribbon. Now on the BenQ and the Lite-On drive, there's only a few things that are connected that way, and the rest are connected with just physical wires that are soldered to the DVD drive PCB board. So if you're using that drive, you'll have to be a little bit more careful because this is going to have to stay somewhat attached unless you feel like desoldering everything, which is going to cause a lot more problems because you'll have to make sure and solder the correct wire back into the correct spot that it was at. So I would just suggest just being careful and not worrying about desoldering everything. First, what we're going to do is we're going to remove this PCB board, and for those of you who don't know, that's short for printed circuit board. On the Samsung, there's a little latch right here, and that's pretty much all that holds it in. All you have to do is push that outward and then kind of pop this out. And then this doesn't just pop out, it's actually in there, so you have to kind of slide it out a little bit. Now this isn't going to come up because there's a lot of ribbons, okay, so don't just rip it out. This right here is a ribbon for the worm motor. So what you're going to do is you're going to pop that out. Same thing here, this is for the ejecting motor, so you're going to pop this out. Next, this is the spindle motor, which is what turns the disc. You're going to pop that out. And now all that's left is it's connected to the actual laser. Now that one's kind of underneath. Okay. Now it's going to be different, for the other versions. They're going to be positioned in different places. It's going to look a tad bit different than this board, so just try to remember to just disconnect everything. On the actual laser, on the Samsung it doesn't, but on some of the other ones you can't simply just slide it out. It's actually got a small locking mechanism. And the way that would work is it's just a small piece of plastic that you kind of pop out, and then you'll be able to take the ribbon out. But with this one, there's no such lock. This one just kind of slides right out. Now, if you can, pull it by this tab, okay? Sometimes you may have to get it started by actually pulling on the ribbon. Okay? And now that's completely out, and we can just set that aside for the time being. Okay. Now this is what we're left with. This is obviously the laser. And now what we'll do is we're going to take everything out and get everything to where you can take that out. Now I would suggest leaving the ribbon in the old laser until you actually hook the new one in. That way you can just take it directly out of the old laser and make sure that you have plugged it back in the exact same way that it needs to be. First thing we're going to do is there's a little white piece here that actually connects the laser to the worm motor, which is what makes it move back and forth and read the disc. And that just is held on by a little screw. Very similar with the other drives. It's definitely, this one's actually going to need a small one, so let me get my other screwdriver. The other drives are very similar. It all works the same, but I can tell you one thing: when you put this back in, do not over tighten it. It does not need to be that tight. It just needs to be in there, okay? Because if you over tighten it, you're going to strip out your brand new laser, and you're going to have to buy a whole new laser. So please be careful when we go back in and reinsert it. Now I'm going to set this little arm to the side. Alright, now you see this should be able to free slide back and forth as you see mine is. The next thing for this one is, now this is another part where there's going to be a lot of differences. On this one, in order to take these bars out, we're going to unscrew these two little screws back here. There's one. Now there's a screw, and then there's also kind of a cap, I guess you could call it, maybe even a washer of some sort. So you actually want to pull that washer out as well. And then go ahead and get this other one. Now definitely put this in some sort of crate. You see how small those are. You will definitely lose those. And if you lose one of those screws, you're going to be completely screwed, because not only have you lost it, but it's probably going to be nearly impossible to find a replacement screw online. You probably just end up having to buy an entire drive. So once again, just be very careful with all that. Okay, now if we kind of pull, well, no, I wouldn't suggest that, never mind. Pull the actual bar instead of the laser, just to be careful with that ribbon. Now we've got both bars loose, as you can see. It just kind of pops out. And then all we have, really this bar here doesn't even have to come out if you don't want it to. But if you want to, then that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. But the bar that has to come out is where it's connected. It looks like it's kind of connected in two places compared to just this one little place on this side. And what you do is you just kind of pull the bar out that way, and as you see, the laser fell right off because it's not physically connected to that. It kind of just rests on that bar. Alright, now I'm going to set that little bar aside. Now if you wanted, this works the same way. You just pop it up and pull that bar out. Now as you see, we have the laser out. Okay, now I'm going to pretend like blah 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 blah, and voila, here is our brand new laser. I'll show you real quick. Most of the time when you buy a new laser, it's going to have some sort of solder joint, and you will have to take that off because it won't work. And I have even known it to actually fry the rest of the drive because it'll short it out. So typically what you want to look for when you're doing that is, here's the main little board that the laser ribbon is connected to. Like I said, for the different types of lasers, it's going to be a little different. But they all have this right here, and it may be hard to see. Let's see if I can get a little close up. Right here are some solder joints. As you can see on that one, there's 3 of them. When you get a brand new one, before you solder it, that'll just be one big bubble. And that's what you have to desolder. Now, you don't want to desolder everything off of there. You want to make sure that it still has those 3 clean lines, but you want to make sure that none of them are bridged together and that they're all their own separate lines. And then that's how you do that. Okay, so now we've got our new laser, and now all we got to do is just do everything we just did backwards. So what we'll do is, remember, the laser goes in upside down. Oh, and I forgot to go through this about this other one. I'm sorry. The other drives, whenever you're trying to take this laser out of here, the other drives are a little bit different. The bend cue and the light on, instead of having these little screws, will actually detach from the other way around. I believe. I might be mistaken about that. But actually what you would do is there's 4 metal clamps on each side, each end of one of the bars, and you would simply unscrew that and take the little clamp and screw out and put it aside. And that's the difference with that. I should have mentioned it earlier. Sorry about that. But anyways, let's get back to putting this back in. Alright, let me find my little bar here. Now it's always good to actually take it and put the bar in first, because it's going to be a real pain to have it halfway in there. Now you want to put this in first, like you see me doing, the end that doesn't have a nut or a screw on it. Now like I said, it does work a little different, and if you have the clamps, you're only going to need to undo 1 clamp, similar to this. If you can undo both clamps, but you're actually just adding an extra step, because once you've undone the 1 clamp, you can still just pull the bar right out like we did with this one. So if you didn't take both clamps off, what you would do is you'd kind of pry that one clamp up and slide that bar in there. And then that's how you do this one. But with this one, everything's a little bit more automatic. Now just make sure too, you want to, as you're putting it in there, you want to make sure and get it connected to this bar too, because if you slide it in there and screw it down, you're going to have no way to get it on this second bar over here. And then kind of have a little motion like that. And now it's on both bars and it can slide back and forth again. Okay. Uh-oh. Just about lost one of my screws here. Okay. Now what we're going to do is put everything, we're going to attach the bars back and get them secure. If you have the other version, this is where you're putting your clamps back on there. And those are definitely more annoying because they'll pop back out, and you'll definitely, especially if it's your first time, you're definitely going to have to try maybe 10-15 times before you finally get it in there, so don't try to get too frustrated. Now this is also one of the reasons why I went with the Samsung for this tutorial, is because of these. These cannot just be placed back in there any old way. They actually, see if I get another close-up, they actually have little notches. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. And those notches are different sizes, and they do have to slide in the proper way. So what you'll do is you'll kind of set it down there in the general place, okay? And then you're gonna turn it around after you get it kind of in there, okay? And you'll notice that it'll get to a point and kind of snap and kind of go down in there a little bit further than it was, and that'll let you know that it's in the right spot. If you don't do that, it'll be too loose, and you could actually get a lot of disc read errors again because the laser won't be in focus. Now see, this is kind of difficult too, getting it in and getting it to stay in while you turn it in the right place. There you go. See, mine just popped down in there. So we'll do the same thing with this other one. Yeah, I can't lose it first. And then just make sure to turn it until it slides down into the right position. And if you're not sure if it did after it slid down in that position, you shouldn't be able to really turn it while it slid down in there. So it should stop being able to just turn. See how I'm kind of going back and forth and it's not wanting to turn? That means that it slid down in the correct place. Now we'll take our two little screws and get those back in there. And like I said, with the other versions, you don't have to worry about this stuff. You're just trying to finagle with those little clamps to get them back in the right place. And they do have to go in the correct place. But it's not too hard because you'll notice that there's little holes that are perfect size for the clamps to actually slide into. Okay, now we've got that. At this point, since you actually had a new laser, this ribbon wouldn't be here. So what you'll do is take your old laser and hold it up next to this one in the same position that this one is in, upside down and facing the same way. Pop out your laser ribbon and plug it in exactly the same way, and in that way you'll know it's in there correctly and it won't cause you any more problems. Now at this point, the laser is in there and it's replaced. All we need to do is start putting the screws and all the ribbons and stuff back in. So now we're going to take our little laser arm and get it back in. Pretty simple. Everything pops right in there. It doesn't matter what position it's in. It'll reset itself when you turn the console back on. Now just remember what I said before. Do not over tighten these. You are going to be really mad and you're going to have to wait for another laser to come in. So just get it to where it's kind of snug, and that's it. It does not need to be tight at all. Okay. Now let's get the drive PCB board. And like I said, if you've got the BenQ, it's actually not been over there. It's kind of been flopping here because of the wires that are attached. But otherwise, that's about it. So what we'll do is you just got to make sure, it's pretty easy because you see everything's in the same position. So just make sure that you've got the clips and everything and the plugs in the right place. First you want to do the laser one because that one's the one that's kind of underneath and hidden, so you want to plug that one back in first. Like so. Then we'll do this. I always do this one next just because it's one of the smaller and shorter ones. Now this. Next we're going to do this one. Okay, now you just slide this back into its little slots and just pop it back down like that. See, the little clip popped back down on it. And that is that. Besides taking it and putting the casing back on it, which I'm not going to do right now for time, then you're pretty good. Everything should work fine. If it doesn't work, you could have gotten a bad laser. Maybe you got the laser ribbon positioned wrong. Let me see. You may have not desoldered that little desolder joint I was talking about earlier properly. Just for a few troubleshooting things if you put it all back together and it still doesn't work. Or you could even have an actual motor out, and I will be going through that and doing some tutorials for that. So definitely check those out if you're just at a loss. You may actually have a motor that's gone bad. So check out my other tutorials for that. Anyways, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you sticking it out with me to help get your console back in working order. Make sure to subscribe. I've got a lot of cool tutorials of all kinds of consoles. I could do a lot of case modding, and I'm going to be doing a lot of case modding tutorials as well. So, yeah, definitely check it out. Thanks a lot.